This week on the Spike and Jones podcast.
Welcome to the Spike and Jones podcast. Today we're going to deep six the afterlife. We're going to talk extensively about something we know absolutely nothing about.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Spike and Jones.
Last week, we had a very, very short period of time to be together. Between time in here and then the time in the restroom.
Yeah. Time spent together.
Time spent well, holding hands underneath the stall doors.
Making all kinds of plans.
But you know what? The truth is,
it hurts so much inside.
it always hurts inside. I've got to use a lot of salve.
Oh, my God.
We started talking about the afterlife.
We did.
And actually, we didn't so much talk about the afterlife as much as we talked about maybe what's in between worlds, right? Sort of that spirit realm stuff. We talked a little bit about, seances and ghosts.
And toying with
danger.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Seriously, toying with and just the danger of toying, not just the toying with danger, the danger in toying itself.
Yeah, no, it's effed up.
It's mega.
Yeah.
Effed.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I wanted to share it because I had that experience, but I also wanted to share that it scared the bejesus out of me and I would never, ever go back. But I would also recommend that nobody does that. I mean, it's not Nikki Sixx, knives flying around the room and sticking in the ceiling type stories, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, drugs are dangerous.
Yeah.
Stories like that, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I always have my worries about folks.
I wanted to know, and we don't have to go straight into it. I would actually like to have a weekly recap because we haven't done that in a few weeks. We didn't do it last week.
Right.
So let's have a weekly recap. But I would love to continue the discussion on afterlife and maybe if you could almost envision what you think, if there is an afterlife, what does it look like? Can you see it in your head? Because I can see what imagine it looks like.
Okay.
Some of it's probably taken out of Pink Floyd The Wall. You know what I mean? Like the visuals of like the football field with the never ending horizon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of stuff where it goes on
vast
forever.
And endless.
Vast and endless, but populated by millions of people, not empty.
Yeah, but where would we all sit? I mean, and I'm not being cute.
Table.
I'm not being cute. It's funny. I've never really contemplated what I envision it or imagine it to be. I think I'm a really firm believer in energy between people and beyond our consciousness of perception. I think that an afterlife is just a connection that really may not be somewhere else. Might be right here.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you.
And
I don't know, clearly.
There's you ever see Stranger Things?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I actually watched the whole thing. Have you seen the whole thing yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you finally watched the end.
I watched the end.
With the upside down and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That there could be just something that simple. An
Yeah.
upside down.
Yeah.
An inverted space.
Yeah.
I again don't disagree with you. Although I would like to think that if that were true, it would be where bad things happen. To me, if there's an inverted space like in Stranger Things, it's like Stranger Things, right? Where it's a hellish place.
We're on the good side?
Right.
Okay. You don't think that there's a worry-free, danger-free?
I think there has to be.
All in the same space.
Probably. I think there has to be.
It's like, which track are you on?
Yeah.
Through a train station.
So let's get there. Let's get there in a few minutes.
Okay.
You've planted a killer seed, and I agree with you, and I totally want to talk about that.
Okay.
Because even biblically, if you want to go down the Bible road that I tend to go down, it pretty much talks about that exactly.
Okay.
And says there are indeed at this moment, separated by a chasm, if you will, two parties, good and bad. And the chasm separates them, keeps them apart from each other.
Okay.
But the bad can see the good, but the good cannot see the bad. So the good is left.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a biblical thing.
Is this a book you said? I could read this book?
It's in this book. I think it's called the Bible, and there's a big T on the cover.
T-Bible.
There's a T on the cover. Actually, it's a small T.
I have an autographed copy of that, I believe. Yeah.
But yeah, it talks about how it's the idea that the man who's gone to hell, if you will, can see his loved ones across the chasm.
But the
and they can't see him.
Interesting.
So the idea behind hell is that you're tortured, that you can never go there, and they're not tortured because they forgot about you.
It's actually a gift that they can't see. It's not a disadvantage.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
They're not longing.
Right.
They're just happy.
Right.
You're forever longing.
Okay.
The
But
idea without God.
I immediately took it as from a who has the advantage of knowing the other side's business.
Yeah. Well,
and it's not
ignorance is bliss, brother.
Yeah.
You know?
My grandma had that on a pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandfather wasn't home much. Maybe. I'm kidding. They're wonderful folks. And as they look,
they're wonderful folks. They're dead.
Still wonderful folks.
They were.
They are.
They are.
That's,
Okay,
well,
that's right.
another
That's right.
one.
There's the
another
energy,
one.
right? They're still here.
My mom is still my mom.
Yeah, no, I get it. And in fact, like you said, you've commented and had more conversations with her since she physically passed than you probably did when she was alive.
I've got an unlimited call plan now.
That's awesome.
You know?
Yeah, I was actually telling my kids that the other day. I was sad. I was thinking about Dad, and I was kind of tearing up. And all three of my kids come in the room, and I look at my boys. I mean, my dad loved my three children, but he really was. He favored, not to say he didn't favor my daughter. That's not the case, but he really, really longed to see the twins grow up.
Yeah.
You know, and Xander comes in, he kind of jumps on me, and he goes, "Why are you crying?" You know what I mean? And I said, "Oh, I was talking to Grandpa," and he goes. He looks around the room like, "Where's Grandpa?" And I
want to talk.
Which crushed my heart.
Sure.
You know, and then he goes out, and Leland runs behind him, and then that just kind of made me sad because they've already, in a sense, they're good. We're good.
Yeah, no, I hear you. No,
who's Grandpa?
That's a gift in itself.
And then my daughter comes in and looks at me, and she goes, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Oh, I was just so sad. I was thinking about Grandpa." And she just starts crying, and she goes, "Daddy, don't be sad." It was just so heartbreaking. But I mean, it's the greatest thing in the world.
It is.
It's the greatest thing in the world.
No, I hear you. I kind of revel in moments of sadness, and I don't mean that like I'm a sad person. You know me, I'm not.
Big heart.
But to feel that deeply.
Yeah.
Even under an unpleasant or sorrowful exchange of that deep an emotion is a fucking gift.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean,
blessed with love, brother.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I love having my heart on my sleeve.
I'm telling you.
I think it's one of my greatest strengths.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people go like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
I pity the people who can't express themselves or can't invest themselves. Pity them.
Yep.
So before we got into this, what do you want to get into?
Well, no, I just wanted to talk about, the last 2 weeks. I mean, your show's raging, Nate and Spike. That show's raging, right? You've had some constant improvement.
I don't trust it, the success. I mean, seriously, I don't trust it.
like and it's an anomaly for people to be listening?
No. That we've had acknowledged success.
Right, good ratings,
quickly.
etc.
Yeah. And I don't trust that. Because I never trust that we are when it's down. I mean, obviously long-term trends are long-term trends, and they indicate a factual reality. Okay,
right.
Spikes up or down can't be trusted. You're never as good or as bad as they say you are. You can't. I mean, it's not like I went in 1 month or a week and decided to just not even try. But the ratings tanked that week.
Sure.
So I know that's nothing I did. So, conversely, if we go through the roof for a week. It's not like I all of a sudden was touched by God.
No,
and everything I said was Carlin-esque.
Yeah, it's like downloads on podcasts. You can have 1,000 one day and 15 the next.
Yeah,
and you're like, what did
we do?
What did I do?
We were the same thing. It's just a circumstance.
Yeah,
So yeah. I mean, when I say I don't trust it, I mean, knock wood. Mm-hmm. I'll take all the superstition I can get and happily have that. But when they go soft, I'm not going to panic. Mm-hmm. I guess it's just kind of an even keel of having done this for a long time. Throwing out the high, it's like the Olympics. Throw out the high-low judges, take the median. Right. So I kind of do that with the same way. But that being said, we are developing a relationship, Nate and I, on air, and we're actually getting some coaching from our program director, which is nice.
Yeah.
And he's actually, not just so that he's validating his position or, his salary. He's actually got smart, intelligent, caring things to say. Mm-hmm. And he's right. And even after me doing this for so long, what I'm doing now is very new for me. I was a supporting, illustrationist. I was a colorist. Mm-hmm. I was an audio illustrator is how I used to, describe my job. Yeah, on Bob's show. Bob was a driver, and I was a guy who made every topic a little more, hopefully, deep, interesting, funny, colorful.
Yeah.
That was my job.
You were waiting to drop the punchline.
I was a tail gunner.
Yeah.
I was the tail gunner on the show. So now it's different in so much that I have to know where the content is and how to present and drive the content and get to the content. But it's on equal footing with Nate. Nate's learning how to do that too. His content filters are very shallow. Mm-hmm. Whereas mine seem to be, I hope anyway, and maybe I'm just full of shit, but I kind of think, this has got some legs that people will care about.
Sure.
This has got a connection people will care about. So
sure. Instead
of just, it's blah, blah, blah. Hey, this happened today. There's a story, for example, there's a story this week where a local kid had a hand in getting Tom Brady's jersey back to him. I don't know if you heard that story.
I don't know the whole, I'd love to actually hear the whole story.
Tom Brady's Super Bowl jersey was stolen.
Yeah.
Right out of the locker room. And eventually it was uncovered who did it, and they got it back, right? This guy in Mexico was an international media member, had been to numerous Super Bowls, was a fucking kleptomaniac. He had Tom Brady's Super Bowl jersey from 51. He had Tom Brady's Super Bowl jersey from 49.
Wow.
He had Von Miller's helmet from Super Bowl 50. And they were all stolen. And he had like a house in Mexico full of memorabilia.
Wow.
A local kid was, I'm not sure, I don't know the whole story. He was either buying or selling. Right? And that's a cute story. This kid was dealing with this guy about, buying or selling memorabilia. And let me see some of the things this guy had. In one of the pictures, there's Tom Brady's fucking Super Bowl jersey. So this 19-year-old Seattle kid calls the FBI. So I think I may have a tip for you. And that was the thread that came to undoing this guy's crime and getting Tom Brady back a Super Bowl jersey. Now, this is all superficial shit.
Right.
And who gives a flying fuck?
Right. It's the clothes I wore.
Except that it's deemed to be maybe the most valuable piece of sports memorabilia maybe ever. And I look at this, I raise my eyebrows the same way you did. I know. But well, keep in mind, as much as I hate to acknowledge this, it was Tom Brady's fourth or fifth Super Bowl win. Fifth, I think. I think fifth because he was 4-2 going or whatever.
Yeah.
Biggest comeback in Super Bowl history.
And 7 times.
It's he's probably going to go down as the greatest ever, and this game was the linchpin. This was the tipping point.
And they might do it again.
I know, right? So this was a $500,000 piece of merchandise.
Yeah.
And with genuine historical content. Anyway, so Nate sees a story. That's a cute story. I see it as, no, wait a minute. I got a kid in Seattle,
right,
who's a Patriot fan. My thing is, I immediately switched to red from the end of Shawshank. I want to talk to that kid.
Yeah.
I want to talk some sense into him. I want to take him to a Seahawk game. I want to dress him in green and blue from his head to his toe. Right. I want to sit him in the loudest seat in football.
I need to unbrainwash.
Yeah, that's how I want it. I want this kid. I want this 19-year-old boy. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, technically he's a man. He's 19. I said, no, he's rooting for the Patriots. He's a boy. It's not his fault. That was my take on this story. So there are days when you look at a prep sheet of stories from around the globe, whatever, and there are days when you can see it. And I can make radio out of anything on this page.
Sure,
you name it. I'll make a break out of that.
Go
I'll make
deep or
funny.
go home.
Yeah, I'll make something out of that. 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 Some days it's just it all just crystal clear, and some days you're like, I got nothing.
Yeah,
those days are fewer and further between. Nate still sees the shallow content, but it's great. We're getting better. It's getting a good relationship, and I genuinely love the kid. He's funny, and he's got a great sense of humor, and he's got a great, he's had a real easy radio life.
He smiles on the radio. You can hear his smile a mile away.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
A great descriptive.
Hey guys, what you got?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
but classic radio fare.
He's always ever had to do is that was them. This is this. Mm-hmm. This will be okay. This will work. This will work. But now let's go deeper. Let's take this further. Let's let's climb that hill now. It's gonna be fun.
Are disc jockeys allowed to be disc jockeys anymore? Meaning, I get it, they're not spinning records literally, but are they allowed to pick content to a point? I mean, obviously there's a playlist, and are they allowed to, I mean, in your situation you have a show. I mean, an actual show.
Right.
But are they allowed even in a situation where they're not in a show? I guess it's probably per show. It depends.
It is.
The program director
no,
says,
you know exactly what it is. And there are as many different formulas as there are stations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that being said, there's certain things that are trying to be accomplished. An all music station will just do this. An all, talk station will do that. A show will kind of hybrid the two until you find just the right mix.
Sure.
To get you where you want to go. I mean, it's funny, when we did morning show forever, there was no formula. I mean, everyone had a plan that was similar, but everybody had a different recipe for making it work. And Bob was great about knowing what he had, what ingredients he had,
right,
and fine-tuning the mix of recipes.
And it wasn't Morning Zoo either.
No, it wasn't.
That's what was so
yuck,
great.
Yuck festival.
It wasn't the whole.
Well, ours was but that works for some people because there's an audience for that. There's an audience that doesn't want to be engaged, just wants peripheral background noise. So
Jay Leno's audience.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Leno was safe. I never was a big Leno fan, but he was safe, and that's smart.
Yeah, I agree.
Letterman talked himself off TV.
No, absolutely. I just listened to a great Letterman. Actually, on the way here, I listened to a killer Letterman interview, and he said the same thing.
Yeah,
he said I was pissed for years. I thought for sure CBS had screwed me out of the number one spot, and then I finally realized it was me, and then all of a sudden I was okay with being number two.
Yeah. And that's a gift. A revelation like that's a gift. I'm talking more about Leno's political leanings.
Well, I guess, but that's what I'm saying.
No, yeah. And Letterman didn't care.
Right,
Letterman
his lack of snark.
Letterman had something to say.
Yeah,
and he felt it was more important than his career to say it.
Yeah,
and he had a platform.
Yeah. And
he took advantage of the platform at his own detriment, and he didn't care.
Yeah,
because the message was more important than his platform.
To me, Letterman represented what I believe would be American humor in the truest sense, in that it is slightly off kilter, ironic, and sarcastic. Mm-hmm. I think that's what made Letterman so great. And granted, I think even quote-unquote middle America that loved Leno actually liked some of that, but they didn't like the reflection that Letterman put out because it reminded them that they are those people too.
Absolutely.
And they absolutely want to go to where they're told, no, you're fine.
You're great. You're not the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, they voted. Oh, that's Trump's America.
Yeah.
Leno's America is Trump's America.
Yeah,
completely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Letterman was the coast. There's a reason that smart people are on the coasts and stupid people are in the middle.
God bless America.
Well, I'm just saying.
No, I know.
I love it when you totally fuck somebody. You go, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You don't wear that to a bar. I'm just saying.
It's like what does Adam Carolla say? He said, when you don't have a way to answer it, you just go, spike. Right.
Good.
You just what else are you gonna say?
What are you gonna do? Spike. And it's so true. How do you argue against that?
Yeah.
Right. It is what it is.
Yeah. It is what
it is.
That thing. Sorry. Keep going.
No.
I interrupted you.
I was done. You knew.
Okay, so the show. Well, I tend to interrupt you a lot.
It's all good.
The show's doing well, and
so far not good.
And juice is happening. So I know you had told me once before, maybe 6-7 months ago, about how ratings work, and I don't need you to do a breakdown, but. What is the short answer? What is how do ratings work again now? Because it's not Arbitron. It's not the same anymore.
It's funny. It is still Arbitron. Same company, different mechanism.
Okay.
Used to be a diary they would mail out to like 10,000 people, hoping that 500 would mail them back in.
Really?
Yeah, hoping.
Really, just 5%.
You get something in the mail that says, "Hey, if you'll write down everything you listen to for a week, we'll send you $10."
Huh.
I mean, imagine the mouth breathers that have to take part in this thing, right? And
they're selling plasma.
This is my audience, okay? Yeah, blood and semen, not together.
No, that's the cover of a Metallica album.
Oh, selling plasma?
No, blood and semen.
Okay.
No, load.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is what it is.
I never knew that. Nor did I want to know that.
Yeah.
Anywho, I know the album cover though. You're right. So. There used to be a diary-based system, and the diary-based system rewarded heritage and favorite shows because people would not do it all week. or they do it Monday and Tuesday and forget, and on Saturday they have to write back everything they listen to. I listen for 4 hours a day, Pump, Spike, Joe, bum, 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 and they just write it all in. And that was great for heritage shows. They did better. Now there's a system that's actually a listening system instead of a memory-based system. They subscribe people for like a year.
What do you mean they subscribe?
They reach out to people who want to be research for radio.
Okay.
Ratings or marketing researchers, like a Nielsen Television family has a box on their TV. Radio now has something called a personal people meter, PPM.
Okay.
And people sign on a contract to carry that with them for a year, wear it like a beeper.
Like Progressive does with their
right.
the little plug-in thing you put in your car.
Right, and tell you how you're driving.
Right.
Well, this thing is, they'll pay you like, I'm not sure what the rate is, but it's like, it's worth your time to carry it for a fucking year. And every night you take it on, and when you put your keys down or whatever, before you go to bed, you put it on a little charging stand, and it downloads what you've heard. And it literally hears what you hear.
That's really scary.
Well, every radio signal has an encoded silent tone.
Right.
That's different for each station. So
it's like walking around with Skype on all day.
Yeah. I mean, so
this is my penis.
And what we've known is that people tune out of commercials, and you bounce around, and this really tells you what you bounce around to. Okay, follow me?
Which stations you're choosing because the underlying tone all of a sudden is like, oh, okay, they jumped to
they jumped to here,
Jack,
and they spent time here, and they spent 18 minutes there, and they spent 12 minutes here, and they spent So it's truer, if you will.
Clearly
it is. Except this: 5 minutes equals 15.
Oh, it's like leverage.
Well, if you listen for 5 continuous minutes, you get radio is recorded in quarter hours. Credit is given in quarter hours. So if you listen for 5 straight minutes, you get that whole quarter hour. There's a way to game the system time-wise. You start your break at 7 minutes of. You keep your break going until 7 minutes after. You've got 2 5-minute continuous segments in 2 quarters. You get 30 minutes of credit for 14 minutes of radio. Wow. Make sense? Okay. Now, if you're a music station, you play 2 songs in a row. That lasts more than 5 minutes. And then you go to commercials.
That's really smart. I see.
People have now gotten 15 minutes.
Yeah.
When this new system came into play, and I don't mean to point any fingers, but guys like Kent and Allen, who play music and don't do much talking, rocketed back to number 1.
Sure.
Because of the way the new system registers success.
Right. Song is 7 minutes long. They play Freebird twice a day.
And you get 15 whole minutes.
Yeah, I got you.
If they're not tired of Freebird.
Yeah. No,
but that's the thing. That's the new system. So while it's more honest and more true in its representation of what you heard, the way it rewards is disingenuous. And there's thoughts in the industry, and there's just suspicions and conjectures that there's a collusion between the ratings folks and the folks who own radio to reward jukebox radio as opposed to high-priced relationship talent radio.
Right. So Jack versus KZK.
Right.
As an example.
Right.
Both CBS products, mind you.
But so there are stations like Jack who have no live humans. They have rating success, so you can show that to an advertiser and say, this is how many people are listening.
Right. But I look through the window and Jack over here, there's always somebody sitting there.
Jason's he's a production kid.
Okay,
he's doing voice work and track and stuff.
Okay. I was wondering kind of what happened in there.
I mean, there's somebody that he's going in the street with Jack somewhere. Somebody needs to stand in a booth.
Right.
Now we have Lee Callahan.
Oh, really?
Doing mornings on Jack.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And she still voice tracks, but she'll do some couple of live things in the morning and take phone calls for contests live in the morning, and it does well.
That's great.
I mean, people want to have. I hope. It's always born true, and I hope that it stays true that people want to have a relationship with who's on the radio.
Yes, very much so.
And you can get music anywhere. You can put in your frickin' Pandora or whatever, Spotify. You can, everybody can be a radio station now. You can have your own. You don't need commercial radio anymore.
Yeah.
And when you're in the business of selling commercials, radio is a business first and foremost. We're not here to play music for you. We're here to get you to listen to the commercials of our advertisers. Right. I mean, Bob had a brilliant plan that will never work. Only encode the commercials. Our business is to get people to hear commercials. Our business is to get people to stay through the 7 minutes or whatever of commercials and hear what's on the back side of this. That's where there's some skill involved. Coming up after this, we'll tell you the rest of the story.
Right.
Stay tuned. We'll
need
give
to
you
listen to the commercials, by the way, or we go away.
Right. Well, that's the drill.
Yeah.
So if you only encoded the commercials, people would actually know who was doing their job.
Wow.
Music's worthless.
So am I
to an
being
advertiser.
microwaved in my car when I'm listening to your show?
I hope not. I don't know.
Is that frequency like
No, it's
creating
no,
cancer?
It's no. I don't, who knows?
That's
We're
what's
putting
really
cell
scary.
phones to our fucking heads, and
I
nobody
know.
knows.
I was wondering why
I know,
my
right?
testicles are getting larger when I
I
sit.
know. Well,
you
that's
know.
because you're loved.
That would be awesome.
You know? That's not to go too deep into it, but that's kind of the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Of
Okay.
how radio works and how radio's rated and how radio's rewarded and how radio's sold and
So your show's being rewarded.
yeah.
in a
So
sense.
far so good. Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah.
And my bosses who were all reluctant to give me that. When my boss was reluctant to give me the opportunity, is now going like, holy shit,
Well,
I should listen a year and a half ago. You
Yeah.
were right,
yeah.
which is cool. It's good for me. But
Yeah.
I've seen it all evaporate like a fart in the wind pretty quickly too. So
Yeah, but that was under a radically different circumstance. too.
completely different circumstance. But you never know.
Yeah.
You never can tell.
You never can tell. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
and with that,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, Spike
Death.
Jones present the Deep Six, the Afterlife. I'm going to get somebody. I have this friend from London out in North Bend, and I'm going to have her do all the bumpers for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, her voice is talking like this, I'm going to have her do
Really?
like a Cockney thing. It's
Oh,
like,
right.
right, here's Spike and Jones. Now get off your mate.
Oh, nice. Does she
Yeah.
strap it on, or she really talk that way?
No, she really talks,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's awesome. I just
Nice.
love listening to her talk.
Nice.
So I saw her this morning, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna have you record
What
all
does
the
she do?
bumpers for us." She's a barista.
No shit.
She's got the greatest voice. Like
and she's a barista.
she's awesome. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. I mean, she's awesome. She's so cool and funny and interesting, and she can put on all these accents as well. And it's just,
What is she doing in a barista shop?
it's just life.
Young, dumb.
No. She's.
No.
I mean, she's. Not to say she's old, but I mean, she's older. She's a few years younger than me.
No shit.
Yeah, she moved over here maybe 15 years ago.
No shit.
Yeah. She and her husband came here to the tech industry because
Right, it's where you go.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
And
if I'm in the pyramid business, I go to Egypt. Sure.
yeah, and then life happens, and then you're not necessarily with the same people anymore. And she thought, okay, if I'm going to start over, I'm gonna do this. I like coffee. I'm gonna
like people, like
yeah,
coffee.
Like
This
people.
is people and
Absolutely. I mean,
coffee?
she would love to run her own shop.
No
you
shit,
know?
right on.
So I hope she does someday. But I love her voice, and I've told her. I said, look, you just. I mean, she has a killer voice, just a killer voice. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Outstanding.
and she'll do it for free, which is great.
Fucking
I'm just gonna
awesome.
have her over for dinner, and then I'll have her sit in my studio in the back of the house, and we'll just record a whole bunch of bumpers.
Nice.
So I'll have you write some stuff.
Nice.
It'll be great. So yeah, Afterlife, or the continuation of last week, part B. Okay, so since you don't necessarily have this is how you envision heaven. Have you ever read any of those books that talk about the afterlife? Meaning, somebody who's had an NDE and near-death experience.
Tuesdays with Maury, that kind of shit, or no, or
Well,
I mean, wasn't that?
yeah. I mean, God drives a tow truck. There's all these. It's literally called that. God that drives a tow truck.
That's great. Great
there-
band name. Sorry, it's already taken.
There's a whole bunch of stories out there.
Yeah, and they're making movies out of them.
Return from Tomorrow.
Right.
The little
right.
boy that died died on the operating table.
Right.
And then revitalized him. And then did you read that book? I can't remember what it's
no.
called. This God is for Real, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, I have. I'm aware, but I haven't read it.
There's a story in there that is so great. And granted, people can still say, well, that's still who knows, right? But there's a moment in the book. So his father actually wrote the book about what he has seen his son do and say since he was brought off the operating table.
Okay.
Right? And one of the stories is really quite interesting. He said, so one day he was going through family album, photo albums on a dinner table, and he was putting them in new flip binders because the old ones they wear out and they get yellow and all that other crud. And he had pictures of his father when he was like 8 and 12 and 15 and all this other stuff, right? And the boy was born after his father had died, so he never met his grandpa. And there's one moment in the book where the little boy, who's 3 now, when he wrote the book, maybe he's like 6 now, but he was 3, walks by the table, looks over and says, "Oh, Grandpa, da 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 da," And the dad's like, what? And he's like, that's Grandpa, something, And it's him as a young man.
Mm-hmm.
So he asks, where did you meet him? When did you meet him? And he said, when I was with Jesus and I was this and I did this, there was this man who was with us, and his name was, whatever his grandfather's name was. And he kept hanging out with me and telling me that, I'm totally paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly, but telling me, you take care of your daddy and all this other stuff, right? And it was basically him as, the perfect
age, right?
Right, the perfect age.
The sweet spot.
The sweet spot, the 19, 20-year-old, right? Yeah,
23 is the year.
When everything's still hard.
Yep. I saw a thing, the 2 times in your life you're happiest.
Yeah.
23 and 69. I know, right?
So many variables there.
I know, right?
I
thought it was
23
interesting.
was a pretty shitty year for me.
I thought it was interesting that it was 23 and 69
Yeah.
are supposed to be your happiest.
Yeah.
I'm wondering then, is 46 the low moment? Because 23 and
Pretty
69
close.
are 2/3.
Yeah.
Or three. They're divisible.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
So 46 maybe is the low, where things are the hardest.
Okay, so we're going to get off the afterlife here because we got to talk about this. 23 for me I was by far my healthiest. I mean, I was sturdy.
Yeah.
I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
And I weighed 160. I mean, I was rock hard, sturdy, right? My son was just born, but I was also married way too young.
Okay.
And I was in an already unhappy marriage. I was married to a person I shouldn't have been married to. I wasn't happy. I was in the Navy. It's all that stuff. I mean, I wasn't happy at all. But I was in peak physical condition.
My 23 was the year that I fled Baltimore because of a broken heart.
Oh.
Now, that being said, on the
It
surface...
was 87, wasn't it?
86.
Okay.
On the surface... actually, you're right. I spent 87 in Florida, but 86 was the year that the damage was done.
Okay. That was your response year,
Right,
though,
right,
87.
right. 86 was my 23-year-old year.
That's right, 63.
Yeah. So, I mean, top of the world. The world's your oyster, and things were too easy,
Yeah.
too much fun.
Yeah.
But then again, if that led to fleeing my hometown, but that in itself is empowering.
Yeah.
I mean, that in itself says, look, all you got to do is change your view,
Yeah.
change your surroundings.
Yeah, yeah.
You that was empowerment. You are in control. If you're not happy, move. If you're not, if this is hurting, do something else. Change your life. Change your perspective. Move away. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Do
You're
that.
23. You can do
Yeah.
it.
Right. So there.
My son did it. He moved
Yeah.
away from here when he was 23.
Yeah.
Was
So,
in North Carolina, and he's living a good life.
and I don't know what I just saw it flash by on a TV screen. I was watching the news without sound. We're doing the show.
Right.
And the news is on. They say that scientists say the 2 happiest moments of your life were 23 and 40, and 23 and 69.
Huh.
I guess because at 23, who gives a fuck? And at
And 69, who
it's
gives
like,
a
you know what? I made it. It's all gravy.
Or whatever it is.
Right, or yeah,
You're
you've
just
created
there.
it.
You're
I
either dying
imagine-
or you're living.
Right. No third direction.
So
Get busy
so was it
living
46 then?
I don't know, the middle?
Well, yeah, but what
Between
did
the
you?
two?
So I mean, 7 years ago for you,
Right. Oh,
So-
fuck. No, the world was shit. It was perfect.
Well, you were on the radio every morning for 4 hours.
Yeah.
You were
Making a shitload
you
of
were
money.
pulling down coin.
Yeah. Mailing it in.
Nothing was crazy at home.
Not really.
You didn't have any water leaks.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
Let's see, 4 years. So it'd be 4 years ago for me because I'm 50. 4 years ago would be 2013. Yeah, that was a horrible time. That was a horrible.
Okay, well, let's
time.
Let's focus
I had
on
lost
find a good year
everything.
then.
I had lost
Shit.
everything
No, I hear
in my
you. I
life.
hear
I
you.
was in complete
Well, it's funny.
chaos.
It's funny because I'm looking at 23 was, the word or the happiest, and it was heartbreak, but it gave me this, and then 46 was an easy street,
Right.
but it led to my own downfall because I didn't prepare myself for what was possible.
Sure.
I didn't protect myself or my
Sure,
family.
you're just riding the wave.
Right.
Yeah. Right into the sand dune.
Right. No, into the coral reef, underneath the subsurface coral reef that shredded my ass.
So you saw this on TV?
Yeah.
So the TV clearly lied to you because those numbers do not work for Rob Jones.
Oh, well, I guess, you're the outlier.
And I'm not 69 yet.
No,
Oh boy, do I like that number.
Yeah. Go deeper.
Yeah. I know I was doing a little Nate for you.
No,
I figured you'd take it.
no,
You'd
I
take
hear
it
you. I
run
hear
deep.
you.
I'm just all skimming the surface
No,
all day long.
I'll sophomore with you all day long. Sure.
Okay. Afterlife. So that book was interesting. I would tell you to read it just because it's a curious story. The thing that I really like is this book called Return from Tomorrow. And I get it, they're books. They're not necessarily Christian books. They're just books about people's near-death experiences, right? But Return from Tomorrow is really, really fascinating. It's about a doctor. I believe he's passed now. But during, was it, I think the Korean War? It might have been. No, I think it was World War II. He ended up getting the flu, a really, really bad, and I mean, people die from the flu.
Yeah, they still do, but then it was a lot more.
A lot. And so it was Christmas of like 44, 45. He was in the military, maybe, I believe, in the Army. He was on a base, I want to say, like in Kansas. Okay. He hadn't been shipped out yet. He was getting ready to go overseas.
For deployment, okay.
And it was Christmas time. He got the flu, so he's in the hospital. And he ended up dying on the table. And it really was pronounced dead. He was dead for 45 minutes, I believe. Yeah, so it's an extraordinary amount of time. But he wrote a book about his experiences in that 45 minutes, what he saw, what he felt, everything. And the thing that was the most curious about this wasn't like an immediate, like what we hear about the white light and all that stuff. This was walking around the hospital, trying to figure out where he was. And for the longest time, he said he didn't know he was dead. He just was walking around the hospital and wondering why people were not communicating back. He would ask them questions, and they would be looking, at a book or whatever.
Right,
they weren't, having conversations. After a while, he started to get terrified that he was dead, and there was even a little thought that maybe this was hell because nothing good is happening. This is all just scary and, disorienting. And so he's wandering around the hospital trying to find his body. And he looks at his own body a couple of times and discounts it both times. That couldn't possibly be him. And he ends up coming back to that body. And he says, he makes a really sort of almost startling judgment. He says, I look at the face and I realize I've never seen my face in 3 dimensions. I can look at my hands. I can see, right? You can only see yourself in a mirror or in a photograph.
Right.
You don't see your face in 3 dimensions. I see you.
Right.
I have no idea what I look like in 3 dimensions, right?
Interesting.
I thought it was really brilliant. Oh, do you got to do this? You suck. Hang on.
Someway.
Boom.
This is the moment in the podcast where Spike speaks to his wife and Rob is shunned one more time.
And now back to the podcast. Where were we? Oh, what was it? Oh, the guy died, right?
Never sees his face in 3 dimensions, which is the concept that's I'd never.
Isn't that
thought of
cool?
before. It really is cool. But does that mean you wouldn't recognize yourself?
He
Because it's
didn't.
Interesting.
He didn't recognize himself at all. That's the point. I mean, when he first writes about when he got up, if you will, out of bed
and walked around.
He turned around and
saw a guy.
he said, I'm in this room and there's this guy in this bed. And I'm like, there wasn't a guy in here a second ago. So he doesn't even think of it as him.
Right.
So that freaks him out. Then he walks out and he's trying to talk to the orderlies. The orderlies don't pay attention.
Do you see yourself different than other people see you, do you think? I don't know how that would be. I don't know how
It's that whole 10 pounds when they take a photograph thing. I think that's how you really are, with the exception of obviously some distortion in the lens.
Sure.
The fact is, I mean, like I hate to admit this, but I'm softer and fatter than
Well, we all are.
I like to think I carry myself pretty well, especially with a suit on. I think I look pretty good with the suit on. But then I take it off and I'm like, holy crap, what is wrong?
It's Rob of the Hutt.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you ever see this sidebar, the Friends joke about Monica?
No, because she's so skinny.
Well, Monica used to be huge in Friends.
Oh,
right?
I remember that.
It was.
Yeah, I don't remember the joke though.
Man, you really were. Something about how fat you used to be. Well, the camera adds 10 pounds. How many cameras were on you?
That's definitely Chandler.
Yeah, Chandler.
Yeah.
How many cameras were on you? It's the greatest fucking line.
My favorite line from Friends, I don't remember.
Oh, why'd I do it to us? Why'd I do that?
my favorite line, I got to at least say this, is when Chandler's sitting in the coffee shop and the 2 women are next to him and they kiss, and he goes out loud, he goes, God, I wish I were a lesbian. Did I just say that out loud? I love that. I've never forgotten that.
Awesome.
That was probably the first year the show was on.
Right on.
So
Okay.
from lesbianism to Christ. So the guy's walking around and he finally sees his body and he realizes, holy crap, I'm dead. And then he's trying to get people to resuscitate him, right? Like in Ghost, right? He's trying to somehow force people.
After like 40-some minutes.
Well, in his time experience,
it's momentary. Sure.
Well, no. Like days.
Wow.
Like days. But the reality of the medical examiner was like 45 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, they'd tagged him and everything and walked away.
So he had to convince people to try again?
No, but he was trying to, like in Ghost in the movie, where he was trying to like push him and, anything. Right. And then actually an orderly, the reason he was resuscitated is an orderly had made a comment to the doctor, literally like, this guy looks like he could be resuscitated.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, no, I mean, he's been dead. I mean, he's dead. Just let it go. And he said, no, I'm actually going to try. And you know what I mean? He like forced the doctor, and the doctor brought him back.
Wow.
Yeah. But go ahead.
There are so many of those stories that have similarities. Is
I
it
know.
someone who heard something? Because too often there are stories with no connection whatsoever, no way that people could have heard.
Understood.
But tell the exact same story.
Yeah.
Or the exact same scenario.
Kind
the
of
exact
scenario.
same.
Well, maybe it's because that's what really happens.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I hear you. There's no way that no way I could have heard what you said. Songwriters, they say, hear something in their past and forget that they heard it elsewhere.
Yeah.
And think of it as an original idea. Comedians do that incessantly.
Have you seen people die? I've seen 2 people die.
I've never seen someone actually die.
Okay, so I'll tell that story in a second, but because that's really important to this whole thing. Okay, at least from my perspective. Okay. So the whole point with this guy is he ends up meeting up with somebody, a spirit somebody. He doesn't know who the spirit somebody is. He thinks it might be, like a guardian angel. Maybe it's even Jesus. He doesn't know. He doesn't want to put in. There is no name to it. That person doesn't give him a name. All these things, but he's in a sense flown around, if you will, like faster than the speed of light type, flown around from place to place. He goes to like New Orleans. He goes to the East Coast. He does a whole bunch of these weird sort of trips, and these are places he's never been. Which is what's interesting in the story, because when he's resuscitated, he goes to those places and he had actually described them before he'd ever been there.
Right.
And this is in the 40s. There's nobody has television or the internet or anything else, so he doesn't know where a neon sign is on some street in the French Quarter. I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but he has an experience. One of the most profound experiences. He said he's floating in the clouds above a plane, an existence, a field, if you will, as far as the eye can see, like straight out of Pink Floyd The Wall, right? It's white. And there are millions and millions of people fighting, having sex, or trying, I should say, maybe it's a better way, screaming and yelling at each other. Nobody can actually hit each other. Nobody can actually there's no intervention. Right. There's no way to actually touch you.
Right.
But they are continuously, eternally. He realizes he believes is hell. That they are forever fighting, trying to have sex. They're caught in their sin, if you will, caught in their lust, caught in their anger.
Unfulfilled.
Right.
In every aspect.
Forever. Over and over, people over just just the whole thing, and no fulfillment, no satisfaction in their anger, and he looks over at the being next to him, and he sees this sadness in this being, and that's the moment where he realizes it's Christ, and that Christ. He senses that Christ loves all of them, no matter what they're doing, still loves them. But it's so sad that they don't know him. That's what the whole thing is about. It's really fascinating. Read the story if you want. So here's the thing about the death. So I've seen 2 people pass away: my grandfather and my best friend's mother. And my best friend's mother died early part of June in 1986, and I was living in her basement. She had cancer, and man, I wish I had some water. She had cancer. It's okay. And I was there, like I said, living in her basement. And so I was there to witness her, fall off the cliff, if you will. And in the last few days, there's this sort of pall, obviously, that's in the air where you're wondering, is she going to survive today?
Right.
And the day she passed away, we just sort of instinctively knew, man, if she didn't pass away yesterday, she's definitely going to pass away today. She's just so close. She's on the edge. She's very much comatose. She's, her eyes are rolled back in her head. She's yellow. Nothing in her body's working. I don't know how she's hanging on. And it was insane, Spike. So this woman, she's laying in her bed, and we had her sons and her daughter and a couple of family friends, and the nurse, who was one of her good friends, is standing next to her bed, there to monitor and basically call time of death.
Right.
Okay, I'm standing over here on the left of the bed, against the wall, next to the windows, and I'm not going to give her name, but the point is she's laying in bed, she's flat on her back, she's out. I mean,
right.
she's out.
Right.
And she's shallow breathing, and I swear to God, the following thing happened. She's I wish you guys could see this, but she sits up and she opens her eyes and she puts her arms out, straight out of the movies, dude. Like freaking Poltergeist, right? Straight out of the movies. And starts smiling and starts almost singing, like she was going like, it was insane. Mm-hmm. And she slowly dropped back and she let out one sigh. And that was it. And you could literally feel her leave the room. Sense it. I couldn't explain it. Yeah. It's that whole 21 grams thing they say. The body, the soul weighs 21 grams. The lady calls time of death, because she did indeed pass. I went outside. So we're talking 5 minutes total from her passing away, me going outside. Being a cheese ball. I'm 20 years old when it happened, and I clipped a rose thing off, and I just thought it would be nice when they take her body away that there's a rose with her,
Mm-hmm.
So because it was her rose, and I come in and I lay it on her chest, and I'm by myself in the room, and I reach down to grab her hand. It's sort of my goodbye, and it's so cold, and I remember thinking, it sounds so absurd, but I remember just going like, wow, you get cold so fast. So cold, not kind of warm, but just cold. It's an amazing thing. Blood stops moving, you're cold, Yeah. And so that was my first experience. The second time was when my grandfather, my mother's father, passed away in 1997, and I was with him at the hospital. And he had pneumonia, and so the last day of his life, he was being breathed for because his lungs were so full. It was terrible. The worst experience I've ever had as with somebody I loved, because I knew it was just torture on his body. And I was standing with my aunt. My grandmother's on the other side of the table, other side of the bed. Everybody else is downstairs. My dad's smoking. All these people outside, out front of the hospital doing their thing. And I'm watching his body heave every, 14 seconds when the machine
ventilator kicks it. Yeah.
Breathes him. Yeah. And my grandma runs over because the phone's ringing in the room. And it's a pastor. He's calling to see how Grandpa's doing and how Grandma's doing with her losing her husband. And I'm standing there with my aunt. And we're just both staring at him, just watching his body heave up and down. Nobody's saying a word. Nobody says a word. And all of a sudden, I see a flash. A flash. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. A flash. Like a little white bunk. And I look over at my aunt, and she looks over at me, and she goes, "Did you just see that?" And I go, "Yeah." And I look over the nurse, and I go, "Excuse me, could you do us a favor, because we think he just passed." You can't tell because his body's
right.
still doing the breathing move.
Right.
And she comes over and she goes, "Wow, yeah, yeah, I know." And I just look at my aunt and I go, "I think we saw that the moment."
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel this one so much as I saw this one. The
Right.
first one I felt, which was crazy, and of course I saw her see beyond. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know if it's a scientific thing. A lot of scientists say that our brains excrete this crazy endorphins when we die, and I don't know. I don't know if that means it's all just that we want to see what we want to see, and then we die anyway, and it's black.
Right,
You know what I mean? I don't think so.
Right.
But I certainly like the idea of Nelda, I've just said her name, passing into a beautiful place. I certainly love the idea of my grandfather passing. I love the idea of my father, your mother,
Sure.
right, passing into a beautiful place. But to witness it, so I always tell everybody, I mean, if you have a chance to witness the passing of a loved one, as painful as it is, man, just clamor, do everything you can to get there, because it's a crazy experience. It's a crazy experience. And it's something you feel it. You know how it's like, it's the same thing. I meet you. I like you. I know I know you're not full of crap. I know you're the real deal. It's our ability as human beings to discern the reality of a thing, whatever it happens, right? You can tell. I mean, you meet some people, you're like, that guy's a dick. I mean, you just know. And it's not what he says, it's how he feels. He walks in the room. His energy's just negative. Poison. Your energy's top notch, right? You feel that energy leave the room.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel when somebody comes home pissed off. Yeah. Right? You just can, oh my God, the door just slammed. Okay. Yeah. Anger's home. It's usually me. My poor kids and wife. So I just feel again with my faith, and it doesn't make me want to go run around and scream, Jesus is alive. But it does bolster my faith, and it might just be happenstance and but
what you want to see.
Exactly. But boy, I've seen some neat stuff.
You have.
And we talked about it in Tatum, when you can walk out there and literally feel the ghosts. Yeah. Or whatever it is. Yeah. It's real. That afterlife, that space in between, the space we can't see, it's real. It's absolutely real. I know science can't prove it, but it sure as hell feels like it.
Yeah. And do you want science to prove it?
No. Have you heard about that Netflix show?
Which one?
The Discovery with Robert Redford. So Netflix, it came out just this week, I think, Monday. So there's a new movie on Netflix called The Discovery with Robert Redford. You need to watch it. Really? Oh, dude, you'll love it. Okay. First 5 minutes is him having a conversation. I'm not going to give away the movie. The conceit of the movie is in the frickin' first 2 seconds of the movie. The idea is he is a scientist who discovers there is an afterlife. And the world finds out about it. And what happens? Suicide rates jack through the roof.
Because they can't wait to get there.
Can't wait to get there. It's real. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, this sucks here. I want to go wherever. It's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's what the movie's about. Yeah. So good time.
Made for Netflix?
Yeah, it's made for Netflix. And Robert Redford is in it.
Shit.
And he's
the shit.
Awesome.
He's the shit.
I mean,
always has been, always will be the shit.
I forgot. You don't see him enough anymore.
Nope.
He's just like,
why
it's so unfair. He's so handsome and he's so good.
Even at that age, he's.
Yeah.
There's a movie, what movie is it?
Sneakers is pretty awesome.
Sneakers is pretty good. That's not the one I'm thinking of.
What, Out of Africa?
No, God, no. It's a spy movie, but it's not Sneakers. Yeah, that's the one.
That one.
Where he's trying.
I'm trying to do the same thing.
I know. You know the one I'm talking about.
I'm thinking of the one with Brad Pitt and.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. But
what's it called?
I can't remember what it's called.
War Games or something? Not War Games. It's something like that, right? Yeah. It's
everybody on the other end of this right now screaming
at their where he plays a CIA guy who's
Spy Game.
He's about to retire. Great fucking movie, and it's Robert Redford.
He's
a god.
He
walks among us like
I love him
like a human.
I know
he's awesome. He's awesome in Sneakers.
Yeah, man, you guys need to watch all these movies because Spike and I are cool. So, what else do we got to say, buddy? What else
about
do we got to
afterlife?
say?
I mean, I don't know. I take it as a. It's funny. It's that that reassuring. I don't have to worry about it. That I rely on for so many things in my life. Mm-hmm. Sometimes to my peril, as I've said before. I don't need proof of an afterlife. I don't want proof of an afterlife. I'm going to take it on faith that it's there, and if I just live right, it'll be there for me. It's like an insurance policy. I mean, that's a very rudimentary way to describe it, and it's a tired cliche on how to describe an afterlife, but it bears out to be true, at least from my perspective.
Right?
Is that I don't need to go above and beyond. I'll be who I am and trust that that's enough. And if it's not, I'll find out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's lazy. Should I work harder to make sure that it's enough? Probably.
Yeah.
But to me, everything's kind of a math equation, a real simple balance.
But that's your programming in general.
It is, yeah.
I mean, that's your,
and I've used that
human.
in numerous situations as a description of me. It's a real simple math equation. I look at both sides and weigh the good, the bad, and decide which one's okay. It's tipping that way. Mm-hmm. I think I've lived a life of compassion. Mm-hmm. I hope a life of empathy. A life of genuine caring. I hope.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, and I'm just basing myself on what I see others do, and who knows who they are or where they fall on the spectrum. So I think and I've made a joke numerous times. I hope it's not what decides my fate. That I just need a slow death so I can apologize. Give me 15,
the Catholic death.
Give me 15 seconds at least.
Yeah.
If it's not
I need somebody
instant,
for last rites.
If it's not instant, I should be okay.
Yeah.
Get my piece quickly and move.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm not going to get all Jesus-y on you here. Obviously, I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Except Robert Redford. I can't wait to watch this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's
Right on.
really good. Yeah, it's a little under 2 hours, so you don't have to stay up until 2 a.m. either.
Cool.
Yeah, I think about that with my father. I just because it's still fresh. I think about him passing away, and did he step across a golden threshold, or into this new world, and all of a sudden it's like the Matrix, and he's 19 again.
Right. Right.
When we went to his memorial, everybody does the videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The videos of basically photographs, and then they piece it all together and they make a collage.
Yeah.
And the pictures of him as a child are just devastating because he's so it's that whole
Strong,
innocent,
young, perfect,
strong,
yeah.
perfect, and all those things. And then you see him as a young man, and you can see the world already getting to him. Yeah. I can't wait to meet the dad, the perfect dad. Because I do believe in afterlife. I do believe in a heaven, and I really, if there is none, then okay, cool. I didn't lose because I don't remember before.
Right.
I'm not going to remember later.
And I guess the reward is that you've lived a life supported and enriched by faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a great reward, sure, but that should be and can be reward enough. Having lived a life that is rewarding.
I think that's why I want to matter so much. I put quotes around it.
Yeah.
But, I think most people. Obviously, there's a lot of people who choose not to. They just don't want to matter, and they're broken down by something, some societal issue, or how they were raised. And a lot of course, is how we're raised.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're told we try, or that we care, or that we're lovely, or that we're special. You know what I mean? I don't want to just be told. My wife and I have discovered a really extraordinary way to raise our children. That admittedly
Work camp. No, sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We keep a pink sash on my daughter's leg at all times, with a radio activated explosive in the inside just in case.
She knows where the boundaries are.
Yeah. 3 acres that way.
Sorry,
the center of the river.
Sorry, children we're talking about, man.
If you find an ankle,
stop. Way to go too far.
P.O. Box. But we found a really cool way, and typically I give my wife crap about this. I like to say, you parent because the internet told you to. Which is she's always researching. She researches everything. My wife is, and of course, as you know, when you go online, you're going to find the answer that you're looking for.
Right.
You're never going to find actually the answer. You're going to find what you want to read.
Right. You look where you find something you want to see.
Yeah, and so
I can find the exact opposite of what I want to see if I look there.
Yeah. She finds parenting tips, if you will.
Good.
That agree with her position in life, right?
Sure.
But I will say this, that one thing she'd come across, and it's extraordinary how it's worked out for us in regards to our children, is you don't praise children based on how beautiful they are, how talented they are. I was always the guy who was like, because I have some beautiful children. I mean, I have 6 beautiful children, and they are beautiful. I know they're beautiful. They're not just my version of they're beautiful kids.
Have you ever seen them in 3D?
Yeah, exactly. I hope so. But I mean, that first band I raised, where there was a lot of, wow, you're so good at that. My son's a great sports kid. I mean, he's a really great basketball player and a great football player, and like, oh man, you're just so good at that. And my daughters you're pretty. You're so pretty. I love your hair, honey. You're so beautiful. Blah blah blah. But I was building stereotypes in them. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily building real value in them,
right,
or the desire to.
I love how great you are with people.
Right.
I love that you are you care about people. That kind of compliment's a better compliment.
Right, but even more so, it's flipping one switch over, which is I love how hard you try.
Yeah. And
we say that to our kids now. Oh man, our daughter, honey, you tried so hard. Good job.
Yeah.
You look at this and now she says, I mean, she does. I mean, it's insane. My daughter is 6. 3 days ago, she turned 6. Okay. So she's not a thick 6. She's a fresh 6. Right. And she can curse. She does cursive. I mean, I didn't learn cursive until I was like 10, and I'm a smart guy.
Right.
I mean, we purposely thought, okay, they don't teach cursive anymore.
No.
I'm
it's a secret language.
I'm going to make sure I teach her cursive.
Good.
But you know what we did? We stuck a cursive thing in front of her, and she just figured it out.
Yeah.
And she's like, Daddy, look. And she writes, Rob, and, I mean, Cadence loves Daddy, whatever. In cursive. It's like, holy crap. And you just tell her all the time, I just love how hard you try. And she's like, Daddy, I tried so hard.
That's cool.
And so the praising goes off that one tangent, right?
Yeah.
And that has changed everything. Just trying. Because
that's gold, man.
Shouldn't we really just try, right?
Right.
Because we always encounter difficulty, but if we try, well, we did our best.
Yep. And then the outcome.
Slightly get better constantly.
I think I don't know if I might have told you this before. I don't think I have. My daughter swims for a team, and she's
you're younger.
My younger daughter. And there was a quote at the pool one day, and it was from a very famous and accomplished swimmer who said, "I've never lost a race because no matter where I finished in the race, I know that I gave my best effort. So I've never walked away feeling like I lost."
Yep. That's awesome.
It's a great perspective to have. It's so healthy.
Yeah.
So helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, we all get beat, but as long as you don't beat yourself.
Yeah. No, it's so true. But boy, we sure beat ourselves a lot.
That might be the one thing I tell my kids. I've told both my girls over the time more frequently than anything else. The world is ready to run you down.
Yeah.
Don't help.
Don't add to the misery.
Well, don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
So there is a whole world out there of people who want to succeed, and there might be one spot, and someone wants to succeed at your expense. It's hard, I love that. I love how hard you try. That's gold.
Yeah.
But I tell them, quit being so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
The world will do that. It's just the nature of the world. Don't help them.
Yeah.
Be an advocate for you. Be a supporter of you. Don't be someone who beats up on you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we all heard the stereotypes, right? We are our own worst enemy. We just are. It's so hard we always want to be different, right? I want curly hair. I want to have more of a tan.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Casper.
all those things that you wish were different.
Well, I mean, it's funny, we keep throwing these old adages out,
Right.
I mean, if you think you're going to fail or you think you're going to succeed, you're right.
Yes, exactly. My friend says that. He goes, oh, you're going to fail? High five. Right? Like, congratulations. I'm glad you think you're going to fail.
That sounds like Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I feel like we did well today.
I think we were genuine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we were interesting. I hope a little.
Oh yeah, no, we're always interested. Even
when
we we are. We're interesting. We're not necessarily.
I just said funny. A minute ago. Don't. Yeah. We're never.
We're
funny.
almost never. Funny.
Almost never funny.
I'm trying to be funny, and you are funny, but I step on top of you.
I try to be more serious than I usually am.
Yeah,
I try to look for the easy laugh most days.
Isn't that funny?
Well, but this is an opportunity for me to go a little deeper.
Yeah.
which I enjoy tremendously.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad.
if we're funny, sometimes let's be spice. This is a deep stew
Yeah.
with a little funny spice, as opposed to what I usually get to do is a fucking bunt cake.
Yeah.
You know,
Cupcake is more like it.
No,
It's
bun
all
cake, hollow in the
bun
middle.
cake, hollow in the middle.
Hollow in the middle,
A little black,
pretty
a little
useless,
white.
You know,
A little mixed up.
yeah, it's sweet but not really worth anything. Empty in the middle. That's me. A bunt.
Oh, you poor guy. You upside down bunt cake, you. Well, you're a heck of a guy, and I'm glad we get a chance to do this. And we get a little better every week, too.
I hope so, too. And I can't wait to see you in the afterlife.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
I think so.